The year was 2019. COVID hadn't hit humanity just yet. The Avengers had saved the world. The Game of Thrones finale had everybody furious, and an egg was the most viral photo on Instagram. Now, as for us tech nerds, we were left eagerly waiting for the Poco F2. Now, while we didn't get the Poco F2, we did end up getting the Redmi K20 Pro, which even today is one of my favorite Redmi phones. And back in the day, in 2019, the Redmi K20 Pro was packed with features which could rival even the OnePlus 7 Pro, which was several thousands more expensive. Welcome to Byte, a new series where I pick out tech from the past and use it in the present. Episode 1, I try to use the Redmi K20 Pro in 2025. Even if the Redmi K20 Pro is more than half a decade old, it looks and feels like it was made just yesterday. There are two pieces of Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the back and the front, and in between is sandwiched a proper aluminium railing. And this is back in 2019. A phone like the Pixel 9a in 2025 that sells for 50,000 rupees should, hang its head in shame when it looks at the Redmi K20 Pro. Not only that, even today when I hold the phone, it feels very comfortable because it had a curved glass back and it sits really nicely in your palm, and it's not very big either. Plus, it weighs only about 191 grams. And how can I forget this very unique glacier blue finish, which is also available in a glacier red. This was Redmi just topping itself, and even today, I don't think there is any Redmi phone that looks better than this. Truly. And it even had an accented red color power button, which stands out obviously. And accented buttons used to be a thing back in the day, not anymore. I mean, a few phones have it, but I really like it. And yes, it had a headphone jack. For all the Gen Alpha kids out there, this is a port that phones used to have back in the day before Apple very courageously axed it.
Courage.
Another feature of a smartphone that used to exist back in 2019 and should have never left it is this pop-up camera. Now, of course, this K20 Pro mechanized pop-up camera was not the fastest one out there, but it had lights. And you know what? It's a mechanical part, and a lot of people used to think back in the day that it would fail, but 6 years later, it's working absolutely fine even today. By the way, I have a feeling that pop-up cameras exited from smartphones because camera manufacturers wanted to add bigger camera modules, and not because it would fail, because honestly, it doesn't. Mechanized parts have existed on electronic gadgets and they exist even today, so I don't think this should have been a problem. In any case, if there's anybody watching this video and is still using a phone with a pop-up camera, do let us know your experience in the comments. And for those who are going to head to the comments, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and give us your support. Now, all thanks to that pop-up camera, we also got a display which was an edge-to-edge display with absolutely no notch or no punch hole camera, disrupting it. And also, this is a Samsung made AMOLED panel, by the way, which back in the day was a big deal, and it's an even bigger deal today because even after 6 years, there's no green line on this. It's obviously a flat display with Full HD Plus resolution and a 60Hz refresh rate. But one thing a few tech nerds will remember, that the Redmi K20 Pro's display could be overclocked to 81 Hz. In fact, in 2019, there were two phones that could do that. One is, of course, the K20 Pro, which is the other one. Let me know in the comments. One of the issues that I face while using the display right now is the fact that it doesn't get too bright. I have to squint my eyes to view it clearly under direct sunlight. Because in HBM mode, it can go only up to 450 nits, and even with HDR, only 600 nits. But interestingly, there are many phones even today that do not give you HDR support on Netflix, but with the K20 Pro, you got HDR support on YouTube and Netflix. And it's still working, by the way. The other thing that I wasn't very happy about while using the K20 Pro in 2025 is the fact that it has a mono speaker, but thankfully the headphone jack came in clutch. Also, the haptic feedback is something that I shouldn't expect to be good anyway, but it feels like Redmi added the vibration motor and forgot to tune it. In 2019, this one also had an optical in-display fingerprint scanner, but using it in 2025 feels like a chore because it takes a lot of time to actually unlock. It's not very fast. Also, one thing that I noticed while using the phone is that you do get support for both the LHDC and LDAC Bluetooth High-Res codecs, of course the older versions of it, but it's there. There are many phones that today give you either LHDC or LDAC. Alright, now let's talk about the performance, which will matter 6 years later, and frankly, even today, it's very good for day-to-day tasks. Say for example, if you want to scroll through your Instagram feed or your X feed, or if you want to use Snapchat, all of that works absolutely fine even today. But we wanted to see how does Snapdragon 855 hold up in 2025, so we reran a few benchmarks. So when we ran Geekbench 6 and Antutu, the scores that we got are very similar to what you can expect with a Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 or even a Snapdragon 6S Gen 3. We even tried playing Genshin Impact on it. Yeah, it was torture for the phone, but it worked. It runs. Of course, we didn't benchmark it, but it runs. But one thing to note is, according to 2025 standards, the 4000 mAh battery inside it is small, but in 2019, it was fairly large. And after 6 years, obviously, it loses battery life much faster. Just a 10-minute session of Genshin Impact caused it to lose 10% battery life. By the way, it supports 27-watt fast charging and Quick Charge 4.0 standard as well. I don't see anybody mentioning Quick Charge standards anymore, but we tried a 30-watt charger to charge this phone and it took about 75 minutes to charge from 10% to 100%. Alright, now time to talk about the cameras. And the Redmi K20 Pro had a proper triple camera setup. You got the 48 megapixel Sony IMX 586 primary camera, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and an 8 megapixel 2x telephoto camera. And of course, the pop-up shooter had a 20 megapixel selfie camera. But the camera performance in 2025, not that great. See, it takes decent photos when the light is good, but in low light, it struggles a lot even with night mode on. And what has improved in 6 years since the Redmi K20 Pro launched is definitely HDR stacking, and HDR performance is a huge concern on the K20 Pro. Also, if you remember, back in the day, there were certain brands who would give you a dedicated AI toggle. Yes, AI within the camera app. Essentially, this would use intelligent algorithms to figure out what the scene was and then take a picture accordingly, but I used to hate it because it would generally take extremely HDR over-processed images or, really bad, overly saturated colors. Now, even if you're shooting your friends and family with the phone, the human skin tones are not too good because it tends to brighten the skin tones, and the selfies are passable at best. And portrait mode, oh my god, you cannot use it. It's pretty badly tuned. But interestingly, with the Redmi K20 Pro, you can actually shoot 4K 60 FPS video with the primary camera, and the quality is actually not too bad. Take a look at it.
I'm shooting it with the primary camera. Let me know how's the video stabilization. Let me know how's the video quality.
Now, obviously, I wasn't expecting to be very happy with the performance of the cameras on the K20 Pro in 2025 because even when I reviewed the phone in 2019, I wasn't particularly impressed with the cameras. Talking about software, it was shipped with Android 9 with MIUI 10, and it got 2 updates, I think, to MIUI 12 and Android 10. This is a classic MIUI experience, by the way. Tons of features, tons of ads, and tons of bloatware as well. But the one good thing about MIUI as it used to exist is that you could add custom ROMs very easily to, improve the experience of the phone. And I know a lot of people who've actually used like Pixel Experience ROM on their Redmi K20 Pro. Unfortunately, with HyperOS, you cannot do that easily anymore because just to unlock the bootloader, you have to go through hoops. But of course, I did expect one thing is that you wouldn't get the latest Android updates on the phone anymore. And of course, it won't have the latest security features as well. So it could be easier to sort of hack this phone. For a phone that launched in 2019, 6 years later, even in 2025, I feel like I can live with it. It's actually aged fairly well. Of course, if I have to use this phone every day, then I would definitely need an extra battery pack. I would also have to carry maybe an extra DSLR or a mirrorless camera for capturing photos because this is not trustworthy. Regardless, one thing I felt after using the K20 Pro is that Redmi needs to refresh the K series and bring back some good phones and bring back some goodwill as well. Anyway, what do you guys think of episode 1 of Byte Back? Do let us know in the comment section. And what gadget would you like me to cover in the episode 2 of Byte Back? Do let me know. See you next month. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.